Regulation. Uh, Gary Gensler taught a course at MIT Sloan School of Management in 2018 on blockchain. I'm about 20 hours into it, and it's really good. And he's really
Oh,
smart,
right.
and it's on open courseware on YouTube. And he clearly is quite knowledgeable about these things. And yet nowadays we're struggling to find clarification from the SEC on regulation. Is it security? Is it not a security? What do you think we need from regulators? What do you think we should do? And also, is it just a difficult job to be in? He's called stablecoins the poker chips of the Wild West, but at the same time, I know he knows better. What do you think we need to talk about when it comes to regulation? What do we need from
So
regulation?
let me just first by saying one thing. 90% of total world cryptocurrency volume is outside of the US. Americans always think everything is about them. And in the last 40 years, the US has been at the head of all technological and certainly financial innovation. Okay. And that's because we've had, in my view, open and free markets, and we're excited to encourage growth, et cetera. So when you say regulation, there's a very big world out there. And take, for example, China. They banned Bitcoin mining, they banned Bitcoin. The market didn't care. The market has rallied enormously since that event. I think it'll go down as probably the biggest mistake, Chinese political, geopolitical, financial mistake that they've made in the last 20 years. But that's good for us because that's fine. People were worried that they were going to manipulate the Bitcoin network because all the miners were there. Well, that piece of FUD is out the window. Like, that's not happened. And so what's happening is that there are places like Singapore and Portugal and Zug and Puerto Rico and places out there that are encouraging people in the crypto blockchain business, Bitcoin business, that are making regulatory rules clear. And I think that that's all that needs to happen, is that we need to have clarity. And what will happen is, if the US continues to dawdle and not make up its mind about what it wants to do, is companies will just reside in other jurisdictions. People have got to understand this is not a US bet. Okay, this is the most decentralized global network that has ever existed. There are people in every country in the world who are either own cryptocurrency or mining or are node operators or whatever it is. I mean, there are more node operators in Germany than in the United States. And so, we have to make a decision about, to what degree do we want to maintain our leading role in technology and financial innovation. And the people in the legislatures need to get up to speed very quickly. Ted Cruz, shockingly, has been phenomenal. I think if you read some of the things that he has written, the mayor of Miami, another standout in understanding the value. So we've got to come to our senses and come up with some rules. And the way to do that is to work with the people, work with the successful businesses in the US. You've got Brian Armstrong. He's out there saying, look, reach out to me. We have a big team. We're a big public company. What is it? $60 billion market cap. This is not a fly-by-night organization. This isn't something Gensler can say is, oh, it's the Wild West. It's this, it's that. I have no idea what's driving and what's motivating him. Obviously a very smart guy, but clearly, stumbling now and falling behind. And other countries are going to take the lead and are taking the lead. So again, when you say regulation, again, there are a lot of countries, there are a lot of places in the world, and I'm just hoping the US gets its act together, because it's not something we want to fall behind in. I suggested in another podcast that I did, an interview I did with someone, that, and you'll remember this from your Bankers Trust days, there's the Federal Reserve, and then they have a sort of a private sector shadow committee. And the Federal Reserve speaks to this committee. There are 15, men and women that are on the committee from the private sector, and they say, hey, what's your view of the economy? Hey, what should we be doing to increase employment in the retail sector, or whatever it is? Just like here, Gensler and that crowd, they should say, hey, let's get a body of 15 of the prominent guys in the space together, and let's figure out how to create, the right regulatory framework. There's no one who wants to run away from it. It's absurd. And, there's a very small percent of cryptocurrency that is, in quotes, fraudulent. And I think there have been lots of studies that have been put out there. There's more fraud done with $100 bills, than on cryptocurrency. Because if you're a smart criminal, you would never want a transaction on the blockchain, because you've got companies like Chainalysis and CipherTrace. They reverse engineer it. They can go back into the blockchain and find you, right? So it's the last place that nefarious activity really should flourish. So I just think that, every moment that we wait, we're wasting, because things are changing at at warp speed.
Do you think they're nervous about stable coins because it'll be a predecessor to the digital dollar? And you already see China with the digital yuan. And I had Alex Mashinsky of Celsius saying World War III will be a currency war, and everyone around the world will have to decide between digital yuan and digital dollar. Do you think that's why they're being hesitant about making a decision on one of the most important liquidity providers in this space, which is stablecoins?
Well, yeah, I think it's just, challenging the dollar. I mean, come on. I don't, look, there are a lot of things that we have going for us in the US, okay? I mean, the legal system here, there is no other legal system like this in the world. Property rights are respected. Safety is important. We more or less are a free market economy, less so today than when I remember growing up under Reagan, in that period right after Reagan. But I'll tell you, forget even talking about the military and all these things. The US is not going away. The value of the dollar is not going away. What is happening, okay, is that the entire legacy fiat system globally, so all fiat currency and fiat assets, so bonds, as an example, there are over $100 trillion of bonds that are negative real yielding, okay? Those are worthless, in my view. An entire asset class, the ones that you grew up with at bankers, that everyone, they don't have any value in a portfolio anymore. What's happened is that the new digital asset ecosystem, this new digital world that is growing up next to the fiat world, is increasing relatively at exponential speed. So a very simple thing for people to understand is that if you look at the last 10 years, Bitcoin has gone up 99% against the S&P 500. Bitcoin has gone up 99% against global bonds. So if you are residing and sitting in the legacy system with your real estate, with your bonds, with your equity, you are losing purchasing power in a dramatic fashion against the assets growing up in this new world.